Alrighty, so News of the Week episode on this Wednesday night, and a bit of a late Wednesday night that is, because today is the day where officially the primary transfer window is going to close. In fact, at the time of this recording, it's actually closing in about 30 minutes. And while there's still a couple of moves that is left to decide, most of the move have pretty much been done in terms of this deadline day, and there will definitely some blockbuster move that has happened and some movement that happened on the final day of the primary transfer window. And we start off with the San Jose Earthquakes, and I kind of mentioned this already in my little rant that I have after reviewing the game between the Quakes and Sporting KC, and that of course is the Quakes getting DeJuan Jones from the Columbus Crew, and them also signing Noah Buck from the New England Revolution. Now, for DeJuan Jones, they of course are going to give Columbus 425,000 general allocation money, whereas for Noah Buck, it's actually just going to be a cash trade instead. So it's 600,000 plus 50,000 on terms of the add-on, and then there's also a 20% sell-on fee if the Quakes decided to sell Noah Buck to a team in Europe or somewhere where else. New England is going to get at least 20% of that sell-on. Now, as I already mentioned in my little rant that I have, or at least my little mini rant that I have in that review between the Quakes and Sporting KC. Obviously, you notice how I wasn't really happy about this move, and the reason why I've said it is because it is pretty clear that midfield is not the biggest priority of this team. The defense is clearly a big priority, and especially getting another backup goalkeeper is a big priority of this team because, as we probably have seen in these last two games, there is a huge drop of quality between Danielle and Earl Edwards Jr. So big that when you look at some of the goals that the Quakes have conceded, if Daniel was still in goal, probably they wouldn't give up as many goals as they have done in the last two games. But with that being said, when it comes to these signings, I mean, these are not surprising signing. Consider Bruce Arena has continued to trying to bring some of his former Revolution guy. I mean, unfortunately, the Quakes will never beat the narrative that Bruce Arena is basically trying to build the 2021 New England Revolution side all over again, as both of the player that the Quakes just recently signed used to play under Bruce Arena. Now, in DeJuan Jones' case, I think it's a good signing in a way that he's kind of just an unfortunate case where he's kind of burying the depth of that Columbus Crew midfield depth, and that midfield depth for the Crew is just so deep that DeJuan Jones just doesn't get as much minutes. And I feel like this move of him going to Columbus, it just never really kind of fit well for him, especially the way that he was trying to implement something that Nancy was trying to implement in his tactics, and you just kind of had a feeling that he's gonna have to maybe move on to somewhere else. And again, Bruce Arena decided to bring him to his new team, and we'll see how what he's going to do. There's no doubt that he was very good during his time with New England when Bruce Arena is there, and the same goes for Noah Buck as well. Though I will say this about Noah Buck, his projectile has definitely been shot down in these last year or so. Remember how he had a lot of potential, and that it was also kind of unfortunate the fact that he joined the England youth national team instead of the U.S. youth national team. Of course, he's eligible for both of them, but yeah, ever since he's moved to Europe, it's just hasn't really quite worked out for him. And now with him going back to New England, you were thinking that maybe he was gonna get more minutes and potentially look like a good player, as we saw a couple of years ago with a lot of hype surrounding him. But yeah, it didn't quite work out. He's barely got any minutes under Caleb Porter, but we'll see now that he's going to the Quakes, and especially with Bruce Arena being there, and it seems like Bruce Arena really like him when he was playing for the Revs. We'll see whether or not if he can get some minutes for this team. The Quakes are not afraid when it comes to give young players minutes, and it's been also shown this season for Bruce Arena where he does give the young kids a chance to play. And yeah, like I said, I think this is a good signing, at least in the midfielder's sake. But again, I don't think this will really solve the issue that this team clearly had for the rest of the season, and that is they need defensive help and they need another backup goalkeeper because Earl Edward Jr. is clearly not the answer to this team. Now, moving on, we got Sporting KC. They have signed Santos Laguna forward Santiago Munez, and no, it's not the same guy that played in that famous movie called Goal from Newcastle United. I'm pretty sure a lot of people have already watched that movie. I actually have never watched that movie, but I've definitely heard about that movie. I know back in my high school day, I had some friends that actually watched that movie as a class project. Obviously, I unfortunately never did, like I said. But yeah, anyway, this is kind of an interesting thing signing. I mean, his track record isn't the best, but I'm assuming this is just gonna be a backup, especially of the next news that is kind of is the reason why they decided to sign a forward, because they decided to sell William Agata to Real Salt Lake. So obviously RSL, they are desperate in terms of getting a number nine. You've been seeing it throughout this season. The lack of nine has clearly been a problem for this team, and one of the better number nine in this league, at least a proven goal scorer number nine in this league, is William Agata. Now I say proven goal scorer. That might be the case a couple of years ago. These last seasons or two, it hasn't really been kind of the case. But there's no doubt that if he can rediscover that form, and especially if he is given minutes, I don't think he's been getting a lot of minutes in these last season or two for Sporting KC, and maybe that's kind of why his confidence is low. But now that he's gonna definitely get some minutes with RSL, because like I said, this team desperately need a number nine, and especially with the way that now it seems like the DP number nine that they were supposed to get, and I'll talk well in just a bit, that they might have a problem when it comes to their target DP number nine that they're trying to bring before the primary transfer window might actually get through. Seems like William Gata is pretty much the secure the blanket option, at least maybe until the summer transfer window, where you could assume if Agata doesn't work out for RSL, and if he's not the answer for this team in the number nine position, they're going to be once again going uh big game hunting for that number nine that they desperately need to propel this attack. And also, when it comes to the amount that they've changed, that is a pretty steep price. 850,000 general allocation money for a guy that, again, a couple of years ago, he was a proven goal scorer. Not really the case, at least in the last couple of season. But I guess this is also just RSL just kind of almost started getting in that desperation mode, because, like I said, they just have no answer right now this season when it comes to that number nine spot this year. Now, Austin, they have decided to sign Robert Taylor from Inter Miami in exchange for 700,000 general allocation money. Now, this is not a big surprise because, while I know Miami has a lot of depth in this team, you just kind of had a feeling some of those players that is kind of the supporting cast, or kind of buried deep in the depth chart, is probably going to move on to somewhere else so that Miami can free up some space. And one of those players is Robert Taylor, who, he contributed a lot to this Inter Miami team before the Messi year came, and he was still doing that at least when Messi arrived, but he started kind of getting buried down the depth chart, because they recently signed a couple more supporting cast players down from South America, and especially he also plays the same spot that Allende play, and with the way that Allende has played so well this season, there's just no chance that Robert Taylor has any spot to get into the starting 11. And again, when you look at this Miami team, we know how loaded that they are, but when you look at the depth chart, there's a lot of players that I think could be starting caliber kind of player for other team as well. And Robert Taylor is an example of it. Austin getting him, I think that's a good choice. Consider they still need to add some more attacking pieces. Now I will say this about Austin. I do still think that they need to find that creative player, and Robert Taylor is not really that kind of attacking player that will create the chances that this Austin team has. I mean, this Austin team does have some good attacking pieces when you look at it, but I just think that they still do lack that creative player, that kind of Dreyusi replacement that they desperately need. And before I originally said that I thought Uzuni was going to be that guy to do so, but Uzuni actually does not act as a playmaker. He's kind of playing almost the same spot as Brendan Vasquez is. So they basically kind of have two number nine, but they don't really have a creative player. That is something that I think Rodolfo is going to have to address with this Austin team, because while they have some good attacking talent on this team, they need to have a player that can feed the ball to the likes of Uzuni, Vasquez, and now Robert Taylor in that Austin team. But still, that's a good another attacking pieces, and a guy that again can definitely be dangerous in front of goal, which is something that Uzuni and Vasquez just have not been for Austin so far this season. Now, St. Louis, they have signed John Day Silver from Atlanta United for 250,000 general allocation money, and I think this is a steal for St. Louis because John Day Silver, I thought he was really good with Atlanta, and he's another example of a guy that kind of got buried down the depth chart. He kind of got relegated in terms of the substitution role. Obviously, Atlanta fans will never forget that goal that he scored against Inter Miami in game number 2 to basically force that game free. Definitely one of the more legendary moments that we ever see Atlanta United have at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. But yeah, there's no doubt that with the way that he does take up a bit of a cap space, and he's more of kind of a depth pieces, they knew they have to kind of move on from him, and St. Louis saw the opportunity to get him, and that's exactly what they did. I mean, there's no doubt that this St. Louis team needs some more attacking punch to this team. It's been relatively lackluster this season, and again, I mentioned it earlier in the video. Part of that is because of Olaf Melberg, very defensive tactical standpoint, but it's also because of injuries as well. They have had their injury issues. Some of their key contributor on the attack has been injured, so adding John De Silva would definitely help sort out that case, and especially bring in some pace to this team, which is something that I think this St. Louis side is lacking heading into the season on the attacking end. Now, Charlotte FC, they have signed Jaquil Marshall-Ruddy on loan, and they actually have to pay 100,000 general allocation money to Montreal in order to get him. That's something I usually never see when a team decided to get a player on loan and they have to pay some general allocation money. But there's no doubt that for Charlotte, as good as this season is and how complete this roster is, if there's one glaring issue that this team might have is the fullback depth. They don't really have a lot of fullback depth, mainly because some of their key contributor in the fullback position is currently injured. A big example of that is Nathan Byrne, who's been missing time, and this feels like it's kind of just the short term or the short term option in terms of Jaquil Marshall already playing that spot for Nathan Byrne until he gets back. And again, even though it's just a loan deal, if at least if you're Jaquil Marshall already, the good news for him is that he gets to leave Montreal and join a competitive team. I mean that's got to be feel good for a player, even if it's gonna be just for a loan situation where things are definitely not going well with Montreal, and there's no doubt that Jaquil Marshall already is still a very talented player, although he definitely have not live up to the potential that he once had a couple of years ago. I mean, it's hard to believe that he used to be linked with the likes of Bayern Munich in Europe, just never really live up to that potential, and now kind of almost used as a utility piece around the league. Speaking of a guy that used to have high potential, that guy is Frankie Amaya. So he's been spending his time down in Liga MX. Hasn't really quite had a great time in Liga MX, and especially with Toluca, and now it seems like he's going to come back to MLS, and LAFC is the team that is looking to get him as they decide to sign him on loan from Toluca. Now, obviously, that adds more depth in terms of the midfield, and also maybe more competition in terms of the midfield as well. The midfield has been an issue for LAFC this season, and that's partly due to the fact that, when they pretty much just completely reshape the midfield, it's going to take time in terms of trying to get the balance, and they kind of haven't really quite get the balance right. They're hoping adding Frankie Amaya might do so, especially a guy that is a proven MLS caliber, and I think he still have some good potential. Especially he did really well during his time with the Red Bulls, and overall, I think it's a good signing for LAFC. They also signed another former MLS midfielder and former Whitecaps midfielder Ryan Raposo as well. I actually didn't realize that Ryan Raposo was actually playing in China, and he actually just signed with a Chinese club, but now it seems like he's coming back to MLS. And again, just more of a depth piece for this LAFC team. I mean, you can never have enough depth pieces, especially if they can, of course, get him on the cheap. And Ryan Raposo is definitely a decent utility piece kind of player for this LAFC team to have. Speaking of utility pieces and some depth, Columbus is looking to add some depth on the attack as they decided to sign Ibrahim Aliou from the Houston Dynamo. Now, there's no doubt that Aliou has great potential. I think he can be a decent number 9 in his career. But the problem for him, of the reason why he hasn't reached that potential, he's been having problem when it comes to putting the ball into the back, and then he's not a very clinical finisher. And if he can just figure that part of the game, I think he can be a decent kind of player. And now going to a team that for Wilfred Nancy, whatever he does, it seems like for most players that he developed, he turns them into an electric kind of a player, and we'll see whether or not if he can do that for LU. And especially, this is more depth in terms of the number 9 spot for this team right now. I think their only number 9 is Jason Russell. Rowe. I mean, some people have said that. What about Daniel Gastak? He's not really play as a number 9, even though I think in the last game they tried to thrust him into that number 9 position, which is kind of interesting because he played more as a 10. But there's no doubt that this is a good option for Columbus, especially for a guy that coming off the bench, a guy that is very, very speedy and definitely can get himself in good areas to put the ball into the back of net. But like I said, the big issue with Aliu throughout his early career is that he just had his issue when it comes to finishing, and that's something that he's hoping that he can change. Now going to a team that is known to have a head coach that can fix those kind of issues. Now, moving on in terms of next news. Now, I'll talk about some transfer rumors. So these signings actually is not complete. And remember earlier I said that it seems like RSL is going to get that DP forward. They decided to get this DP forward called Robert Bosnick, and I think I kind of mentioned it in my last News of the Week episode too. But now there's a big issue with this because yeah, the guy that they're getting is from Bovista. And if you know anything about Bovista, they are kind of a very scam kind of club right now based in Portugal because they're a team that has had a lot of financial issue. They actually to this day still have not owned the Houston Dynamo, the transfer fee for Albert Elise, and also the same goes for Reggie Cannon for FC Dallas. And they also mentioned that they actually have not even owned the transfer fee for Robert Bosnack when he was playing in the Netherlands. So as a result, there is a major holdup because of that. And again, we'll see whether or not if they can sort that out. And if they can't sort that out, I mean, yeah, this is why if you're RSL and really in general, if you're an MLS team, I don't know why they still think to try to go to Bovista as a club to do so. Like before, I know they had a good partnership before, where we've seen some teams decide to sell their player to that team, and that team was doing okay financially when they decided to pick up some MLS talent. But it is pretty clear that they are not doing very well when it comes to financially. Like their financial situation really was in ruin. Consider I think they got relegated in the top division of the Portuguese league, and now they are in serious debt right now. And that, yeah, again, when you have to deal with a club like that, even if you're potentially going to get a decent player, it's going to be problematic in terms of getting the transfer done. And now it seems like there could be a case where this might not even happen, and that's a shame for RSL too, because like I said, they desperately needed a DP number 9 and desperately need goal scored. And this is also kind of the reason why, like I said, they were so desperate in terms of trying to get William Agata, because they just need anyone in terms of that number 9 position, or at least a proven goal scorer to at least maybe use as a stopgap before they might try again in the summer transfer window to find that DP number 9. Now, NYCFC, they're finalizing a deal to sign Australian midfielder Aidan O'Neill from Standard Liège. Now, there's have been a fair amount of Australian player in the league now, although this is a guy that is not coming from the A League, but instead coming from Belgium. There's also been a lot of MLS players that play in the Belgium league. There's some good players that came in the Belgium league as well. So NYCFC hoping that this is, of course, is the case, and we'll see whether or not if this signing would be done. And then lastly, this is going to be a deal that is most likely going to be done, if not probably overnight. And that, of course, is Minnesota. They are going to get Julian Gressel from Inter Miami. Tom Bogert mentioned that this is very close of being done. And this has been the big question when it comes to this season and really in the off season as well. What in the world is going on with Julian Gressel with Inter Miami, and is he going to be moving on to somewhere else? Because it's hard to believe that he has not played a single minute for Inter Miami this season. It feels like he's kind of in a bit of a holdout right now because it seems like Javier Mascherano clearly does not trust him, and that he not only has dropped down the pecking order in terms of that team, but just simply haven't even played a single minute. And there was no doubt that you just kind of had a feeling that eventually he was going to be moving on, whether it's this primary transfer window or maybe in the secondary transfer window. But now it seems like it is indeed going to be the primary transfer window. And I'm kind of surprised Minnesota is the team to look to get him. Consider he already mentioned that he wants to move back to the West Coast. And I mean, Minnesota isn't really the West Coast, it's the Midwest, but still, it's not really near the West Coast destination that Julian Gresso would want, especially maybe in the Vancouver area. I heard that he says that him and his family really enjoyed the Vancouver area. Maybe the Whitecaps were looking to get him, and also I'm even surprised that maybe Atlanta might take a chance. I mean, they've already got Miguel Aaron, so why not welcome the old band back by bringing back Julian Gresso back to that team that is kind of the team that really made himself a name. Now, obviously, with Minnesota getting him again, it's kind of interesting. The Loons decided to target him because I don't think fullback is an area that the Loons really need. I think right now the thing that Minnesota needs is definitely some midfield depth because they're basically getting wrecked with injuries when it comes to the midfield. And if they do decide to sign Julian Gresso, I mean, I'm assuming he's going to play the spot that Longwane currently plays right now, and they'll probably put Longwane back in that winger position. I mean, I'm kind of surprised that this season, well, where Longwane is playing that right wing back position, it actually worked out pretty well. I didn't think that he would be a guy that would work out well, especially tracking back as well and defend. He's been doing a lot of that, and surprisingly, he's actually done a really good job. Even against some of the best player in the league, he's done a great job in terms of shutting those players down. But it's obvious that he's not a right wing back. He's played more as a right winger, so I guess maybe that shift Longwane back into that spot. But then again, there's the question of, well, that's the same spot as Robin Lud. So is Robin Lud gonna not get playing time? Which that could be a case because Lud has had his struggle this season. It's a good problem for Eric Ramsey to have, and I do like the fact that Minnesota is being ambitious. Again, this is a team that I think this is a very talented team. I think this team can easily be a team that can finish near the top four. The only frustration I have with Minnesota, obviously, is that the goal scoring has been a big problem, and especially just with the way that they've been so one dimensional lately with the counterattacking style. I mean, I don't know if Julian Gresso can bring something different. I mean, one thing I will say about Julian Gresso is that he's a very good crosser, and I think if when Minnesota does get him, now all of a sudden Minnesota has two of the most dangerous backs, or at least the two of the most dangerous wing backs in the league, and this is going to be a team that could be a force to be reckoned with when it comes to crosses because we know Rosales is very good in terms of his delivery. Although this season it's been kind of a little bit iffy. But Julian Gresso, so if he can go back to the form that he was, even doing his time with Inter Miami and Vancouver, yeah, I'm very excited to see how this Minnesota team would do go forward. This could be a team that, like I said, if they can just figure things out, and if Eric Ramsey just don't so heavily rely on the transitional game, this team could be a dangerous team in the Western Conference and a team that should be feared as the season goes along. And then lastly, the last news that I'm going to talk about involving the MLS Disciplinary Committee, and that of course is that they officially rescinded Diego Luna red card, and rightfully so. I mean that again, it was ridiculous the fact that that was a red card in the first place, and I know RSL fans are probably still not going to be happy the fact that that was a sending off because it was not a sending off. So ever, and the fact that they even go to VAR and they still didn't get it right. That just almost as a kick in the tooth in terms of that. But the good news is for RSL fan is that at least he's going to be available in the next game. But it's not going to help the fact that they're very frustrated that if they actually got it correct, they probably would have had a chance to get that get at least a point or even all 3 points against Toronto. I mean, they absolutely dominated that game against TFC. They pretty much dominated all stats. They just couldn't finish, and it also doesn't help the fact that they were down to 10 men for the last 30 minutes, and the fact that they just lost probably the guy that most likely could have unlocked this TFC defense and finally scored the goal that RSL deserved in that game in the last 30 minutes because of this blown call. But there you have it. That is pretty much it in terms of the news of the week episode. As always, let me know in the comments below what do you think of these news, and if there's any news I didn't mention here on the board, let me know in the comments below. As always, and again, the primary transfer window, I think it's actually closing about 8 minutes at the time of this recording, so there might have been some late kind of signing that has happened. I'll probably mention it a little bit during the preview that I'm going to be doing tomorrow for the weekend's game. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.